Alright, we're starting. You ready?
Yeah.
What's up, Jigger?
What's up?
Welcome to episode 12.
Episode 12?
We finally published.
We did it.
How you feeling?
First week of actual podcast publishing.
Yeah.
It only took 3 years.
Super interesting that we published it. Well, we didn't publish, but we recorded the first one 3 years ago, but we never published it. And after 3 years, after 11 episodes, we finally published the first episode on YouTube and Spotify.
Yes. So now you can watch us if somehow somebody finds us. Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, it's legit.
It is. It is legit podcast. I mean, it's actually week 120.
That's
which is
crazy,
right? Like if we think about counting from the very first episode, 120 weeks.
Hey, it's not about how long it took. It's about that we finally published it.
That's true. But I mean, it's probably also good for the algorithm, no? Like week 120, right? Like I feel like that would, like someone is more likely to click on week 120 than just week 1, right? Like,
hey, the only thing matters is we have to keep it up.
That's true. That's true.
Talk to me about Australian Open final yesterday. Zverev choked.
Oh, that was quite the disappointment. I mean, I feel like everyone was hyped up going into it. I mean, Sasha Zverev, like, he is the most accomplished tennis player that right now that has not won Grand Slam title, right? Like, it's ridiculous.
17 titles, right?
Something like that, yeah, like 17 titles, like 10 or something, like, or 7 Masters 1000 titles. Like, I mean, the guy can do it, except in the Grand Slam. He gets stuck.
What do you think is he just choking in the finals, or is it that other people are so good in the finals? If you think about it, in the last 10 years, we see in the finals only the familiar faces, and only familiar faces are winning, aka Sinner, Alcaraz, Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mix of both, right? Like, he has had opportunities where maybe he would have a favorable matchup in the finals, but a lot of times he's also fallen to other people like Taylor Fritz, right, in earlier rounds. I mean, if you want to be winning Grand Slams, all the people you mentioned, they don't do that. You know, they're very consistent. If there's a player that's a lower level than them, they beat them. You have to play like that. Like, sometimes he's getting a lot better, right? His game is getting a lot better. His serve has been amazing this year. But, I mean, he faced Jannik Sinner. Like, what are you supposed to do against that? Like, the guy is the greatest hardcore player right now. Not even close. So
The question is, at the beginning of the tournament, Jannik Sinner wasn't looking good.
he was looking pretty bad. Like, I think at first rounds he looked okay. I mean, he had the match against Holger Rune. That was insane match. Like, he was at one point shaking when he was like drinking his water. His hand was like shaking. I mean, he had to go for a medical timeout. Like, I don't know what was happening. Something was happening. He was sick or something. But somehow Holger Rune figured out a way to choke even harder than him and lost the match. Like, that was ridiculous. But
Hey, congrats to Sinner, back-to-back
It is.
Australian Open.
It is amazing. I mean, the guy's 23 years old.
But question is the critics. They say that Jannik Sinner was tested positive for dopings, and Daski actually takes dopings. The amount they found in his blood was very minor. But from your expertise, do you think it is legit, or?
I mean, I don't think anybody can say 100% exactly what happened or like. I mean, the substance was found in his body, right? I think the real question is, was he aware of it and did he do it intentionally? That, I think, is something that no one can really say for sure. Right?
I have a question about that. How much was it? Is it something like you take it and then it improves it, or you would take something like aspirin or other type of medicine unintentionally? It's like very small amount, which is not going to impact anything.
I believe it was like a vitamin. So I think what had happened was I think it was like a vitamin where he said that he was given the vitamin. Like, he told them, for whatever reason, he was in the hospital or something, and he was getting treatment. And he told them, like, hey, I'm a professional athlete. I cannot, like, anything you give me, you have to tell me, and I have to get it approved first. But I think they had just administered it to him, like giving him some vitamin or something. And he didn't get a chance to, like, allegedly, right? Like,
Talking about dopings, can you take TRT, testosterone replacement,
I
and
don't
then
think you
deny?
can. I don't think it for.
How do they find these things? Like, what is the science behind it? How do they identify those elements in your blood?
Well, I mean, TRT. It's the testosterone, right? Like
Yeah, you would just say my testosterone level naturally high. I've been sleeping good.
that's a good question. I don't know actually. That is a good question. Like how do they know if like let's say somebody who had lower testosterone and took TRT to bring it to more normal level, like, how would they know that you're
Wasn't
taking?
that the big scandal with Serena Williams that her testosterone level was high for women
Yeah,
on
so
average,
that's
and they
like
couldn't prove it? It's like doping or not.
yeah, so that's the kind of the gray area when it comes to the way you're supposed to regulate it, right? Because naturally she had high testosterone, right? A level that for her and the way that her body like responds to testosterone was normal and fine, right? But let's say at her level, right? If you had some other female athlete who was naturally at a lower level, and they brought it up to Serena Williams level, they would get an enhancement in their well, they would see a difference in the performance, right? Like it would be performance enhancing for them because
see.
the way their body like people respond to levels of testosterone differently. Some people are more sensitive to it, some people are less. So if your body naturally produces more but you're less sensitive, it's fine, it's normal. I think that's when it makes it tricky because all these agencies try and put limits on it, especially for women athletes. So like you can have less than this amount of testosterone, but what happens if you're Serena Williams? You naturally have a high amount. Problem is if you say, "Oh, that's okay," now you can have other female athletes who have naturally less. They're like, "Oh, well, I'll just bump it up to her level," and that'll do a lot more for them than it does for her. So
I see.
it's very difficult to just say like a number limit. I think that's a struggle.
Yeah, that's my point. Is how would they prove that you're taking TRT and
I don't know.
improving your game?
I don't know. I mean,
Could it
there
be
there
possible
has to
that
be.
every single player is on TRT?
I mean,
I don't think so.
no, I don't think so. I mean, there has to be some type of effect. Maybe they monitor your testosterone over like multiple weeks, that kind of thing, and they see if it fluctuates, stuff like that. I'm sure they have a way to figure that out. But I mean, that's a big issue with a lot of the people who say like you have all these female athletes who are taking like testosterone and other performance enhancing drugs because the law, like the rules allow it. Because the rules can't ban a natural woman who has naturally higher testosterone from competing, right? That wouldn't be
Yeah.
fair. So if they make the range so broad, you get cases now where you have people who are very obviously taking a lot of testosterone and performing at a much higher level, but it's still under the allowed limit.
So talking about testosterone, what is the correlation between your performance, athletic performance, and testosterone levels? I know it's like for lifting, bodybuilding, higher testosterone, it's easier to build a muscle,
Well,
and it
yeah.
also helps you recovery.
Same thing. I mean, it's the same thing with women as well. Like if women
But
take,
their level is very small. Like we're talking about
but they're
few milligrams.
it's true. But like I said, their body is so sensitive to it. It's like if a male takes estrogen, but like a tiny amount, trace amount, your body will still respond to it very significantly because your body's used to such low levels. It's very sensitive to it. So if a woman takes even a little bit of testosterone, their body compared to a man, the body is very, very sensitive. So it's going to respond significantly to it. They'll put on muscle mass,
Better recovery.
better recovery, better strength. Yeah.
In that case, I have a question. Like, why women in general don't take it as a
There are
health, or there's a health disadvantages on that?
Yeah, there are. So like, I mean, because of the way the hormone balances in women, there's a lot of other side effects to it.
So yeah.
So it's typically it's not worth the side effects unless your entire career and life depends on it. Then people are willing to do it, right?
Hey, going back to tennis, let's talk about the aka new GOAT, bro. Madison Keys, bro. She destroyed everyone.
That was incredible. Like people had been talking about how she had been doing better before Australian Open. These last like 4 or 5 months, she's been playing much better, and I was skeptic. I was like, she's playing better, but I don't see her as like beating Sabalenka beating Iga
Iga.
Swiatek. Like,
Even
I mean,
Rybakina.
yeah, I mean, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, do I see that happening? I'm like, of course not, right? Like
Hey, she did it though.
These are like proven champions, right? Like she had a draw going through all of them, and she did. She went through
you cannot say it. She got it lucky.
No, that's I think one of the best things about this entire tournament is I've seen like all the comments, all the feedback afterwards. Everyone's talking about it. Nobody can say anything because it's like you have to respect it. I mean,
Do you feel proud as an American?
I mean, of course, like that's great. I'm always happy when we have more American tennis players are doing well, winning Grand Slams. Doesn't happen very often, but when it does.
Hey, Ben Shelton's actually pretty good at American.
He had
Tyler
a great
Fritz,
run too.
T-Paul.
I mean,
honestly, pound to pound, America has one of the best teams.
It was a good. I think it was a good Grand Slam for Americans. Definitely, like you had a lot of players doing very well. I mean.
I think like Americans, they have like a lot of good players, but so far there's not one single which is like extraordinary, like Sinner, Alcaraz.
Not in this generation, no. Like
maybe soon, maybe Ben Shelton.
Be,
He's still young. He's 22 only, or 23.
I think he will be a great player. Like, will he be able to catch up to the likes of Sinner, Alcaraz? I doubt it. I mean, it's not to say it's not possible. It couldn't happen. I think that's the thing I really like about tennis is. Like the story with Madison Keys. Every now and then you have these amazing stories that come out because you never know what can happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think, with sports that are team-based, you can have one player, maybe have a miracle or shine. And sometimes if it's, impressive or just like happens to be lucky enough, it will create an amazing story. But I think tennis, because you're by yourself, you have a lot of times where like these one random incident, this one random upset can like create this whole like snowball effect and create this whole like amazing story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing that keeps fans excited, right? You only need like one young guy or one young girl to get really lucky, or maybe like have
shots fired at Emma Raducanu, 2021.
Who?
Hey, she won the Grand Slam. How many people?
She won a Grand Slam. Do you know how many? How many WTA matches she won before that? She was playing a Challenger Series before that.
Hey, it all matters that she won a Grand Slam. That's all it matters.
She did.
Wait, how many Grand Slams do you have? Zero.
How many Grand Slams does Zverev have?
Zero. How many Grand Slams Emma Raducanu has? One. Bro, end of the discussion.
But
Going to the GOAT talks, bro.
I mean, but that's the. I think even though she's not she's not risen to the level that maybe some people hoped, it's still that story was exciting, right? Like, what's the chance of that happening? I mean,
as a humans, we like this underdog stories.
Yeah.
When you like watch NFL or basketball, you see some underdog team performing really good. That's why we like that movie, Moneyball.
Yeah.
With Oakland Athletics.
Yeah. I mean, but like you said, I really like how even in European soccer, they have the relegation. Because you do have these stories sometimes. You have a small team who works their way all the way up, right?
That actually happens quite often, and it's emotional for the team and then also for the people who support that team. Imagine your team is in the 5th league and then 10 years later you're in the 1st league playing and you can watch the game against the top teams. That's a amazing story, like, as a fan.
Exactly. Like, maybe you have people who grew up watching this team play in a small, tiny home stadium. And then once they get into, like, the 1st league, now they can go into an away game at a gigantic, huge, massive stadium,
Also, you're right. I feel like NFL or even MLS should have a relegations. Like, you perform bad, you end of the table, you end of the conference. Bro, that's it.
Kick them out,
right? You got relegated, some secondary league team. Is there even secondary league in NFL?
Not really. I mean, there's the...
It's like a...
There's a Canadian Football League.
It's like don't talk about 51st state, bro. Come on.
I mean, there are some players who they try and go that route, right? Like they can't make it to NFL. They play in Canadian Football League for a while and then try and get picked up by a team. I mean, it happens. It's not as popular.
I don't know. It's like
Well, I mean,
it's all about the profit here.
but, I mean that you're right. It's all about making money for the owners.
Yeah, but imagine if it's relegated, teams are more motivated. Now it's like, oh, I'm not gonna make it to playoff. I don't care much about the game, so you
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
end up, you just end up being the worst team in the conference. You don't have motivation to win. But now, if you know that you're gonna get relegated, if you lose,
Or
if
you're
you
gonna
end up the
try.
last, you're gonna try. And it's even the last games of the season. It's gonna be very epic and emotional because what if the two teams are tied in points?
Yeah, it's
You have
like
to win.
you don't want to be kicked out next season, right? I think basketball had like similar problems where you have teams that they're not performing very well during the season, and maybe some teams are like, well, we want to save our star players, we don't want them to get injured, so we're just not going to play them anymore.
Yeah,
We put them
it's
in
all
for
exciting
like
for
2
the
minutes,
fans.
right? And then we just pull them out and they don't play the rest of the game because it doesn't matter. And I think especially for the fans, that's who you're hurting the most. I mean, these people pay to come and watch you play. They come to see the star players, and they don't want to see them sit on the bench and do nothing. Right?
Exactly. If I'm going to watch the Warriors, I want to see that Steph Curry.
Exactly.
I don't want to see him like sitting in the bench. I want
Yeah.
him to be in actions. That's why I paid big money, bro.
Exactly. Like I think it's the same thing even if your team is not doing well, if I buy a ticket, I want to see you try. Right?
Yeah.
Like and if you have relegation, it's like they're gonna try. They have to. The stakes are there. Like everything's on the line. You're gonna be kicked out of the league. I think a tiered system would be cool. I would like that. I would like that. Where like let's say in the NFL, in order to be a contender for the Super Bowl, you have to be part of like the first league.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, like there's a second league, and the top teams from second league get promoted the next year to first league. Bottom teams from first league get demoted to second league.
I think it's gonna make it a lot more exciting, and you're gonna have a secondary league, and you can have a lot more teams to follow.
Yeah,
Instead of following like bro, college football,
Oh.
that does not make any sense,
I
bro.
agree.
Is there like a outside of from United States? When I came to United States, they told me, "Oh yeah, I'm watching college football." I'm like, "What? College football?"
okay, I would say I'm not a huge fan of college football because I find it very hard to follow. Like there's so many divisions, there's so
Yeah,
many
because
different
California has so
teams.
many teams. I feel like if you're from Alabama, you don't have a good NFL team, so you just follow the college football.
I mean, yeah, but also like I think people will have like one college team that they're favorites, right? And they just follow that division or that region, and they don't really know or care about the other teams playing in other regions because it's just too many. Like, how are you gonna keep track of them all? But if they had like relegation or something like that would be kind of cool. I think also for the teams that are not doing well, bring them down to second tier league. They're playing against other teams who also didn't do well.
Dude,
It's more
so easy in
competitive,
college
right?
football though. Imagine you end up end of the like bottom of the league
Oh, like
in
D1?
D1. You're gonna get depromoted to the D2.
Oh, they can't do that though, because of the way the NCAA is like structured. Because D1, D2 is like it's the school.
Yeah.
So if you're like D1 school, like all your sports are D1.
Well, what if they changed up the system a little bit? That would be so cool.
I mean, I agree. I think it would be cool. Like, it's more fun when you have matches and games that are closer. Nobody wants to watch these blowouts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and you're gonna have like this epic stories. Some small team which used to be D3 climbed all the way to D1 and then performed really good.
Yeah,
It's
that would
a
be so exciting, right?
very underdog story.
Yeah. I also like, you don't need to wait for the like crazy story of a D3 team or like some low, like currently, like the lowest ranked D1 team winning the championship. I mean, the chance is very low, right? But what if they were a D3 team and it happened over many years? Because the thing is, like, right now, you have to make all the progress in one season.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's in the same league, right? If your win-loss record this season sucks, that's it for you. It's got to be great in order for you to win the championship. If you have this tiered system, it's like you can slowly build your way up. This year, it wasn't like the same as the tier 1 schools, but like it was better, so we got bumped to tier 2. We work on it a little bit more, we get it a little bit better. Now we're like almost ready to be like a solid tier 1 team. So we get bumped to tier 1. And then that year, they're like, all right, now we're ready to go. We're like top team. We can win the championship. It's better stories for the fans.
Going back to the tennis, what happened to the GOAT, bro? Arguably the GOAT.
Arguably the GOAT. I mean,
Joker.
I mean, what a story, right?
The guy injured.
Well,
Played against number 3. He won.
Let's not forget his road there. I mean, he played some tough opponents.
Like who?
He played.
By the way, we're talking about Novak Djokovic.
He played. I think it was two Czech players, Mečač and.
Oh, Mečač is actually pretty good.
Yeah, and
yeah, I watched that game. He lost one set and then he won the 3 sets. Yeah.
Yeah, and he went through Lehečka too. Both excellent, young, up and rising, like, you know, Czech tennis players. A lot of people think these guys are going to be solid. Like, these guys are going to be top 20 players, possibly even top 10 players someday.
But do you think it's also a mental thing? Even if you're a really good player, but you're young, you playing against Novak Djokovic, and you're like, hey, he won the most Grand Slams.
Okay, I have this idea. Okay, this is what I think. This is my theory. When people played Novak Djokovic, the first set, like, you know, maybe Djokovic, he shows you a little bit why he's Novak Djokovic, right? You lose the first set. Then you're like, man, I just lost this first set to Novak Djokovic. He's amazing. He's playing way better than me. I have nothing to lose. I'm going to go for everything. Then the second set, you win. Because you're playing like you have nothing to lose.
And then after second set,
you awaken the beast.
But you also, now you have something to lose. You subconsciously think like yo, I might win. Yeah. And then you just get like overhyped.
And then Djokovic turns it on. Then he goes full on like, all right, now it's time to turn on championship mode.
6-2.
I'll show you who I am. Exactly. So I think if you look, he has a lot of these matches that are like he drops the second set.
That's right. Actually, if you think about it, he drops a lot of second sets.
I think that's why. That's my theory. That's what's happening.
Hey, that's a legit theory. It could be possible.
So, but he went through these 2 players. I mean, he didn't have an easy draw at all. People saw his draw, and their reaction was, "Oh wow, like Novak's getting knocked out." You know, like he is a really tough draw. He pushed through. He got through it. He got through all the way to a quarterfinal with Carlos Alcaraz. Everyone was so excited. And then, unlucky, he got injured. I mean, somehow, though, figures out how to win that match.
Do you think Alcaraz was fully fit? Maybe he wasn't playing his best game. Maybe that's why.
I mean, okay, was Alcaraz playing like the, you know, top 5% of his skill? Like, you know, 95%? I don't think so. But at the same time, Djokovic was playing incredible. His second serve especially was insanely good. He was winning so many points off of his second serve and being so aggressive with his second serve. It was going in. Alcaraz had no answer for it. He keeps him right in the middle of the court where Alcaraz can't really make any big angles, and he just wears him down. I mean, it's hard, I think, for a young player who doesn't have as much experience yet. I mean, we're comparing what 21-year-old kid to the GOAT. Like, I mean, this guy is like the strategic genius. So I think it'll take some time, but he'll figure out how to beat him.
Hey, it was a good tournament overall. Even the final was like a little bit boring. 3 sets straight, Sinner won. Congrats to him.
Yeah.
Next one is gonna be, I guess, the big one is Indian Wells. Or is there anyone?
There's Indian Wells. I think the next Masters 1000 will be. There might be a couple more before that. I can't remember. But yeah, you will have Indian Wells in.
Yeah, tennis season started, bro. Exciting.
Bro.
Super Bowl's coming soon too. I'm not gonna watch, bro. I'm not gonna watch. I don't know. Hey.